Good morning. I'm just going to read from Psalm 18 today. Not the whole thing, it's really long, but I read through a part of it and a good point came out. So this is specifically for, if you are a child of God, if you are living for God, but you're going through some hard times. Here you go. So Psalm 18, the header thing for it, doesn't have a verse, says, "To the chief musician, a psalm of David, the servant of the Lord, who spake unto the Lord the words of this song in the day that the Lord delivered him from the hands of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. And he said," so that's the header. And so this is what he said. This is what he spoke. This is what I don't know if he sang it, but this is what he said. In the day that he was delivered from all the hand of all of his enemies, delivered from the hand of Saul. And here we go. Verse 1, "I will love thee, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer." This is verse 2 now. "My God, my strength in whom I will trust. My buckler and the horn of my salvation and my high tower. I will call upon the name of the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from mine enemies." It's him praising, him rejoicing after the great thing happened. After it all was done with, after all the trials were done and he was delivered. He was saved. Then it looks like he starts to tell the story a bit. Verse 4 says, "The sorrows of death compassed me." Now these things, I can't fully explain exactly what they mean, but just think of these words and imagine what an awful place he must have been in. Not just his situation, but what an awful place he must have been in his mind. "The sorrows of death compassed me, surrounded me, and the floods of ungodly men made me afraid." There was ungodliness all around that just coming in like a flood, and he was afraid. The sorrows of death surrounded him. And then verse 5, even further, "the sorrows of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me." So the sorrows of hell, not just the sorrows of death, but then going further, the sorrows of hell compassed me about, surrounded me. The snares of death prevented me, or it also says it means confronted, confronted me. The snares of death confronted me. Verse 6, "In my distress," in the middle of all this, it sounded like he was truly in the depths of despair, to borrow a thing from Anne of Green Gables. In the depths of despair, seriously, not just but seriously. "In my distress, though, I called upon the Lord and I cried unto my God. He heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry came before him, even into his ears." If you're going through something, call upon God. Even yes, this relates back to the thing before. And again, it was about David. He first called on God, if you listen to yesterday's. But even, it doesn't say this is the first thing he does. He was going through all this. But he did, in the middle of his distress. Even if you forget to do it first thing, do it. If you remember to do it, make yourself do it at some point. It says, "He heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry came before him, even unto his ears." God will hear you. No matter what you're going through, no matter how loud or quiet you speak, God is going to hear you when you cry out to him. Then we're going to skip down to verse 16. in the middle of that, you can read it if you want. It says a bunch of things like that God did. But then verse 16 says, he sent from above, he took me. He drew me out of many waters. Verse 17, he delivered me from my strong enemy. His enemy was strong. And it says, from them which hated me, for they were too strong for me. They were too strong for him. He had to rely on God, but because God was stronger. God took him out because they were too strong for him. And verse 18, they prevented me in the day of my calamity. Prevented, also confronted. They confronted me in the day of my calamity. But they confronted me in the day of my calamity. But the Lord was my stay. The Lord, through it all, will be your stay, will be your help, will be your fortress, will be that one that is there, that keeps you, that holds on to you, that keeps you steady. That is your support. Verse 19, he brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. David had to go through these sorrows, this hard time, this awful time. But through it all, he cried out to God. And eventually, God saved him. It wasn't right away that he was like, oh, done, pulled you out of the waters. There was all this stuff in between. God was working. God was doing things. God was orchestrating. In your situation, God's working. God's moving things. God's orchestrating. Call out to him. He's working it out, believe. And he will pull you out in the end. And not only that, verse 20, the Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands hath he recompensed me. If through all that you're going through, you stay with God, you stay strong, you stay prayed up, you stay whatever, you might, slip a little bit or forget to pray once or something. But if you stay with God, according to your faithfulness to him through these hard times, he will bless you. He will reward you after it's all done. There is the trial. There is God bringing you out. And then after that trial, there is reward for getting through that, for staying with him. This was longer than yesterday, but there you go. I was going to try to keep it under 5 minutes, but hope you liked it. I'm going to end it now. Have a good day, guys.